I am Stellar Tortoise, and this is
Double Pixel?
And we are reviewing our latest Brackeys Game Jam entry.
Yeah, which is what Brackeys Game Jam
2021.2.
Point 2. Yeah.
All right, so what do you got for me?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that our game is Sandstomper, and the theme of the Game Jam was
Let There Be Chaos.
Let There Be Chaos. So essentially, Let There Be Chaos automatically, when it came to brainstorming day, I was thinking everyone is going to be doing lots of explosions, guns,
and rightfully so.
Lots of guns, lots of bombs, lots of explosions, possibly some fireworks, just basically chaos. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking more of an explosion. So as I was discussing what I think people end up doing, I said, how about we try something different? So maybe we'll stand out on the actual website. And we hummed and hawed and hummed and hawed. And I came up with some ideas.
Yeah, one of your ideas was like a paramedic or something like that.
Yeah, because I was thinking like Crazy Taxi, but I was thinking more of a paramedic. So basically, paramedic's job is definitely crazy, going around trying to take everybody to the hospital. And then we ended up going with that one. And then we were thinking of what was the other one? There was one more. I was thinking of like a waitress in a kitchen, but there's so many games like that.
Yeah, there are. That one I wasn't feeling too much. The paramedic one definitely had potential. Yeah. But when I remembered this one, that's when.
Yeah, and then you kind of had that aha moment, and that's when you brought up a game that you created for a previous game jam that you actually didn't submit, and you showed it to me, and it was just like, wow, I don't know what's going on here. It looked hilarious.
Sandstomper in general, like a grown man wearing like a cape and like just running around stomping on sandcastles. How can you go wrong? Yeah. And then of course there's the Let There Be Chaos with all the swimmers who don't know how to swim. And you have to balance.
So you were hired on as a lifeguard.
Yeah, and you got to balance saving the people, and this part didn't get into the game both times, but there was supposed to be a day where kids were having like a sandcastle building competition. And so It was one of those things like if you ever worked a job where you have to do something really stupid on a special occasion and you're like, God damn it, I gotta do this when like I've got this more important thing to deal with, but I also have to deal with this stupid thing. And then of course there's Sandstomper is just gonna make things worse by just stomping on the sandcastles. So it's just balancing saving the people in the water.
I like that Sandstomper's an adult. I find that was just really funny.
Yes. I don't think it would have been as funny if it was a kid.
No, like, it would have been like, oh, that brat kid.
Yeah. Damn it, kid. Take off that cape. It was a grown man. You're like, what?
Yeah, what? So you showed me the original game, and it opened up with you as a lifeguard. There was some people splashing in the water, and then potentially drowning, and you had to save them from them. And then Sandstomper would come from the edge of the screen, enter into the middle of the screen, stomp some castles, and then the lifeguard had to fix these stomped castles, which I found funny too. It's like a lifeguard would fix a castle.
Why does he have to? And that's what I was saying, the whole bit about having to do like stupid things for your job that like shouldn't be part of your job, but like it's made. Like, I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but I've had it happen so many times. And you're just like, this is not my job. Why am I doing this?
Oh yeah, definitely been there.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because, like, of course, he's the one who has to watch the whole beach, so he has to make sure the sandcastles are okay.
Yeah,
and that's why.
When I was watching your original game video, I definitely seen the chaos because the lifeguard had so much to do, like save the people, shoo the stomper, shoo him away, and rebuild the sandcastles. And then you also had, what I really liked too, was the stamina bar. So he only had so much stamina. Once that was out, he had to go sit on his perch again.
but I never got the stamina bar right in both games. It's a little bit better in this game. In that game, it ran out too quickly, and you were just too slow when you were out of stamina.
Yeah.
What I added in this game, you didn't like in the original game, you needed to go back to the chair to regain all your stamina. In this version of the game, you can do it by both like sitting on the chair, which will instantly refill it, or just standing still and it'll slowly start to recover.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should have, had I more time to work on it, I would have made, when you stop, I would have made the stamina bar recover faster. Because like the stamina bar is great in theory, it's just I didn't get it to work the way I wanted it to twice.
It's crazy that this simple game, in theory, has been one of your biggest challenge games, and you failed to submit it to 2 game jams.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like the complexity of a game. Like, it's basically don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
Because I've made far more complicated looking games than this. With
and less... you also you created the original with GameMaker.
Yep.
And then you've been working with Godot for a while, and you took on the challenge to recreate this with Godot.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad I did. It didn't go as according to plan as I'd hoped. Because I've already worked on 2 projects previous to this, and I was learning GD script pretty well. But this time around, I realize now, after doing this project, how much I didn't know. But that is really the point of game jams, because now I know those things, and I don't think I would have learned as quickly the Godot engine had I not done this game jam in Godot.
So what was your biggest learning accomplishment on Godot during this game jam?
It was definitely... it was it's how the engine works in general, but it's definitely how things are interconnected with the scripting, and mostly how some of the differences between how this engine works and how GameMaker works. It's kind of cool to be able to know enough to understand the differences, but the difference, like some of the differences were so big that I hadn't anticipated. Like since I'd been using GameMaker Studio, well, GameMaker in general for years, there's just certain things about that engine I just took for granted, and they had features that were lacking in Godot that I hadn't anticipated, specifically since Godot has features that GameMaker doesn't. Which makes sense that one would have features that the other doesn't. If one does and one doesn't, it goes both ways. But Godot, for example, the main thing that they have that's really a draw to their engine is that they have move and collide systems in place that you don't have to code. Like, it's just one line of code. Like, you do you choose how, which direction you want to move in and your velocity and all that stuff. You choose all that through whatever code you write, but there's only one line of code. It's like move and collide, or move and collide with snap. But it's just one line of code and you just put your variables in there. Now with GameMaker, you have to program everything by scratch. You have to be if one place above me is empty, then move up. If else, don't move. You have to program everything about the collision engine in GameMaker by hand. And some of those features that you use to build that collision system actually help it for games like this game, because you can, for example, in this game, you both spawn in random sandcastles and random swimmers. So
right,
when I'm scanning an area, I can give it a box, and I'd be anywhere inside this box, spawn I've got 7 sandcastles I want to spawn. Each one can have a random location. The problem is that you don't want them spawning on top of each other, or say the chair. Say I was spawning sandcastles in, and then I don't want them to spawn under the chair. In GameMaker, it's fairly easy because there's code that can detect. Like you can put code in there and be like, if this place is empty, then spawn. And then that way you can just avoid spawning on top of each other. And it's just really simple. And it's so simple that I hadn't thought that Godot was missing that feature. Because Godot didn't really need that feature because it already had collision detection and movement like built right in. So like it doesn't have any of those functions that GameMaker has to, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't know how to like reduce it to its simplest form, but it's like a consequence of GameMaker's lack of collision engine is all these useful functions for searching positions, and Godot doesn't have it because it doesn't need them. But I wish it did because it would have came really in handy for me. So I had spent like hours looking, like trying to figure it out on my own, trying different code, and I eventually found something online that was close enough, and it didn't detect for any other objects like the chair, but it was able to take into account, like each time it laid down a sandcastle, yeah, it would say this spot is taken, so don't spawn here, and that's like the best it could do, which I was pretty happy about learning. But it's
definitely good enough for this game too, where it's not a moving scene.
Yeah.
It's a static scene.
The funny thing is, too, is that when I went back to GameMaker to, like, figure it out, I was like, damn it, how did I do this in GameMaker? I didn't even do that in GameMaker, because I only, like, it was a 2-day game jam, so I was just going as quick as I could, and like, I actually got more done with that game, strangely enough, in 2 days than I did with this game in a week. But in that game, I didn't have the search to see if a place was empty. I just spawned it wherever, because, like, I was just, like, blitzing. This game I was trying to be more perfect with everything, and that was a bit of a problem. So yeah, that was the main thing I learned, was the differences between the two engines, and because of that I consequently got a better understanding of how Godot works. And my biggest takeaway is that despite its missing those features, its customization, or I can't think of the word right now. It's so customizable. Godot's just like a really, like, there's way more pros to Godot than there are cons. I'll just say that. So it was fun learning the engine. So I'd say the same question to you then. What was the biggest takeaway you had from this jam?
Two things that come to mind instantly, and both are art, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And one being trying to mimic someone else's art style, and how hard that actually is. So I tried to mimic the art style that you had in your original game, and doing that, I wasn't able to capture it. Now I tried, and I made a mock-up version that basically was your style with my style, and after hours and hours of trying to do that, I had to completely scrap it and do my style with just a hint of yours. Like, I didn't overcomplicate the characters.
Yeah.
That I normally would do or attempt to do. And also because I knew you were going to be looking for a lot of movements and animations and positions and stuff like that. So I wanted to try and keep the characters as simple as possible with that. So I basically learned positions and how a character like a human would move, so running, jumping, and stuff like that, and how to draw that in the simplest form. Well, I guess simplest form would be a stick man, but one up from that, and that was the final character that I came up with. It was the simplest character I come up with that still mimicked your art, but was more my art, and that I could reposition easily.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge, and I feel like I succeeded in that challenge. The second thing that I learned that I always kind of knew, but I didn't actually put it to practice enough, was smashing layers together. Let me get the right word for that.
Merging?
Flatten is the actual word.
Okay, yeah.
Delete layer. Yeah, so creating multiple layers. Say Sandstomper. He has the cape behind him. Well, how does the cape attach to his neck, flow down his back, and then sort of flow away from the body depending on how he's moving? Well, a lot of that cape would have been hidden. In my mind, I can't quite picture how the cape would be. So what I did was I added in a layer, drew the cape on its own layer, then pasted Sandstomper on top of the cape, and then made adjustments to the cape so that it looked correct to the eye. And then once I was completely done on every single frame, I then flattened everything so there was no more layers. It was all one layer and it looked seamless. I did use that in other games and even just on my own practicing, but this game really pushed it and I used it the most. And I think actually Sandstomper was the most use of that. Let me see if there's any others. No, Sandstomper definitely used the flattening of the layers the most. But yeah, awesome. That's pretty much my two things. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. So, I mean, obviously we both had some great takeaways from the game jam, but we both also hated it at the same time. Like I know I did.
Yeah, I definitely didn't enjoy doing the art for this, and I did a ton of art. I did 2 female swimmers, 2 male swimmers, 2 kids that have like buckets and an ice cream.
Yeah, not all your art even got in the game.
Didn't even get in. I had alternation of the sand dunes, the palm tree, the seagull, which I completely animated and it didn't get added in. I made a boardwalk.
Yeah, the boardwalk got in and it's pretty sweet.
Oh, the boardwalk is in the final.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah. So I definitely had fun creating the art, but I didn't have fun with the overall project as much as previous things I've worked on with you.
No, and I mean like Lights Out to me was the best. Like Kayak Ken, that game was fun because that was our first game jam together.
Yep.
But like we did that one in Unity, which was my first Unity game jam game that I made. And that was a very simple game, but it was fun. It was like a new idea. I think this game kind of suffered from just being like a remake. Like it kind of takes away the fun of a game jam because game jams are so like quick, like think of a theme, like just come up with a crazy game. Like I think it took a lot of the creativity out of the equation when we're just remaking a game. Because
we were just trying to copy game, you were trying to recreate all the code in a different program, stuff you've already done before.
I wasn't creating new code for like a new game. I was just like redoing code I had already done in a different language, trying to make it work.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I learned so much from that, and I was so happy about it. But it was not fun to do.
And also, on my end of why I didn't have so much fun is because I didn't have as much freedom as I normally would have or like to have, where I'm trying to copy something just like you're trying to copy the code. I was trying to copy art pieces from your original game, like a chair, the castles, the water, the sand dunes, the trees, and the people. Mm-hmm. It was all done. I just had to make my versions of everything. And at first that sounded great. It's like, oh man, sweet. I don't have to think. I just need to draw some stuff up and be done. But then when I was actually putting the hours and the time into it and trying to mimic this stuff, it just, it felt like such a drag.
Yeah, I felt the same way. So, next game jam, definitely not going to be recreating another game.
No. And also, hopefully the art, I don't like real life art. I'm really coming to that conclusion. Like, if if it has objects in it that you can relate to in the world, I don't like them as much. And I think that's why I liked Lights Out. It's
very cartoony.
Very cartoony and very, like, I had freedom. It was, we need some guns. And I'm like, all right, I'll just draw some spacey looking green toy guns that, you know.
I was actually thinking about that earlier, and that's something we never mentioned in the Lights Out video that we did. But your idea of the gun and my idea of the gun were like very different initially.
Right.
But like, it's like, so you came up with the gun and you had like the green bits, and like it was just like the design of the guns that you were making. And like in my mind, I was thinking like, how is this gun powered? I was like, oh, it must be part of a turret. And then when I saw you made the green part, I was like, man, that looks like a chip card. I was like, that was probably from like the turret, and like it was just coincidental. But I was like, man, that's awesome. It's like you just ripped off the gun part from like something else, and the like chip, like the motherboard or whatever.
That's funny too, because I wasn't thinking anything like that while drawing it.
Oh, I know. I remember you telling me, but
I was actually confused when you mentioned that. You were talking about the turret.
Yeah.
And I said, like, I came and pitched what you're saying, and then you threw the art at me. You're like, here's the turret, and then I was just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I can see that now.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things. It's like you didn't plan. That's not what you had in mind when you made it, but it ended up working so well in a way that you didn't intend.
Yeah, I just think that this game jam lacked freedom on both ends, both parts.
Yeah.
And that just really bogged down the whole project. And you were also learning new code. That really bogged you down too.
Yeah. But if I choose to use Godot again for another game jam, which I probably will, I'll definitely be more well equipped the next time.
Yeah, more well equipped. I will be too. I'm just hoping that whatever the next theme is, it's more of what me and you are both into, and that is kind of...
Yeah, but you know what? We should just do that anyway, because like Game Jam, you have so much freedom, and like the themes themselves are usually like pretty ambiguous. Like Let There Be Chaos, like Lights Out could have like easily fit that theme. If we spun it the right way, Let There Be Chaos. For sure, the lights went out, like you have to go out on the planet, like that's chaos. And that's also why you have these people that keep on resubmitting old games that they did to game jams. I hate when they do that.
Yeah.
That would be like us taking Lights Out and just submitting it to this game jam. For Brackeys 2021.1 and 2021.2.
Yeah, like I do notice that it's very obvious when someone has been working on a game for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
More than the allowed time. And then they put it through and it's like, man, there's no way you did that in a week. Come on. You had that sit in a file somewhere that you've like mastered the game and you're submitting it.
And I don't know why somebody would do that, because it takes I even understand. Some people, I was even halfway through this game, I was thinking, like, is this even the same thing? I mean, it's not, because we're recreating everything and it's taking a long time. But
yeah, everything was recreated, because I actually asked you for the sprites from the original game. Yeah, and I was hoping to recycle some stuff.
Yeah, like all we had, the only file I was able to had like a palm tree, it had the sand, it had half of the water, like it had the shallow part of the water, and maybe the sandcastle. No, it didn't have the sandcastles.
No. I didn't end up using anything. You actually sent me a file, and in the file was a palm tree. I didn't use it. Rocks, some water, didn't use any of that. And a bit of the left and right rock wall. That's it. I have it right here. And I didn't use any of it. Which I'm fine with, because I wanted my own art in anyway, especially where I've already done so much.
Yeah. But you definitely learned a lot when it comes to running animations. Like of your own like art, I should say.
Yeah. Which will definitely come in handy when I want to use my actual art that I prefer to use. Not this style. Like, this is very stickman to me.
Yeah, for sure. It kind of looks like those like guys on a sign when they're running, like
yeah, it does,
like
doesn't it?
Crosswalk person.
Yeah, it does have that vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, man, these are like just crosswalk people. Must be what they do when they're off work being crosswalk.
When they're off work.
Yeah.
When they're off duty from standing on a yellow sign. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it when it comes to this game. I can't really say anything else because we covered the good and the bad, and I'm just honestly glad that this game's done with, because I did not enjoy working on it at all. No. And I was getting really exhausted of the art too. It wasn't my style of art, and I didn't really have much freedom. And when it was once you told me that we missed the deadline, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I actually felt pretty relieved about it too, because like I was hustling like real hard, like up until like, oh god, I think it was like 11 at night. And then I was just like, oh, I'm just going to go to bed. I'm like, I'm not waking up. Like, I'm not staying up all night to submit this game. Like, it's not going to be ready. And it wouldn't be. To be completely honest, to get it playable in the way that I wanted it to, I would have needed at least another like 3 or 4 days.
Crazy. Because the game does not look like much.
No,
and it doesn't.
It's not. And
you don't do much in the game either.
It's all under the hood stuff. It's just, that's just what, like I said, don't judge a book by its cover, because Lights Out, we not only were we able to get that game done, but we polished it. Like, people complimented us on how polished that game was. They're like, wow, you got this done in a week?
Yeah. We had a lot of extra detail in there, and audio as well. That were all their own creations.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to audio in this.
No, we didn't. Like, there was just so much stuff that we didn't get to.
Yeah.
But, oh well. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, and we both learned some new techniques. You learned some coding, I learned some art techniques, and we'll put what we learned and more to the next project.
For sure.
All right.
I think I'm gonna end it there.
We both ended on an all right.
Yeah,
that's the best way to end it.